What I mean by minding the gap is this shift that we go from. And it's what I call in Reiki, from the relative viewpoint of Reiki, being me as separate from Reiki. So in Reiki 1 and Reiki 2, we talk about the Reiki coming through the hands. So it's kind of universal life force, and then through our hands, and then into our body or into the body of the people that we're treating. So there is this built-in assumption in Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 that Reiki is a kind of like an external force, even though we call it universal life force, which assumes we are part of that, if we just think about it for 2 seconds. But the way that we teach is kind of related to the level that our students are coming in. So at Reiki 1, if we started talking about this kind of stuff we're going to talk about now, at Reiki 1, you would probably throw a lot of people off, and it probably wouldn't make sense to most people. So there is, as we go through this unfolding process, there is also a maturity in our viewpoint. And if you think back to when you were doing Reiki 1, your view of Reiki now compared to then is completely different in some aspects, and in some aspects it's the same. So we're not kind of saying that this is something that a new Reiki person would necessarily understand, but for us, we can start to talk about it and to start experimenting. And for most of you, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but it's to do it in a more deliberate sense. So the absolute viewpoint of Reiki is when we start to notice that Reiki and we are one and the same thing. And that may seem like a very big statement, but it's really as simple as, when you Reiki yourself, do you ever have those moments where you don't know where your hands are and you don't know where your body is in comparison with the room? And I think that's actually quite a common thing, where there's a merging. Now, you might, if you think about it, you might think in your mind, oh yeah, I'm just really blissed out, so I'm not focused on the edges of my energy field. Or when you Reiki someone else, and you don't, when you close your eyes, you can't tell where their body and your hand meet. That kind of experience where it all merges, and then you kind of have to open your eyes to check that you're even in the room, because you're just merged with the whole surrounding. Now, I would say for most of us, when we've been doing Reiki self-treatments or treating others for years, which all of us have been, then there is this feeling, we get these feelings, right? Where we close our eyes and we're so in it that we're completely merged with the experience. And it may be something you've only had once or twice, or it may be something you have every single day. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about the absolute viewpoint. And what I'd like you to hold as a possibility is that this is not your imagination, and this is, in fact, the truth of your experience with Reiki, i.e., you are merged with Reiki in that moment, and you and Reiki are one and the same thing. So when this happens, for most of us, we're not even aware of it, because we're blissed out and we're enjoying our Reiki and we're just doing our kind of thing. So the attention for this week is to come to these moments of merging and become more alert. What's happening? What's my experience? Am I Reiki? Am I merged? Am I having this experience as part of my imagination, or is this truly my experience? And these are really interesting questions, because now we're going to start looking at what I call the gaps underneath all the thinking. When you are in that merged state and you bring your attention to it, you will start to notice that everything in that moment is perfectly fine, because you're not thinking. As soon as you start thinking, and you'll notice this as well, as soon as you start thinking, oh, I think this is my imagination, or oh, I think this is really true, and what am I, blah, 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 blah. As soon as the narrative starts coming in, then the separation comes back in. And then you can feel it. You can feel your hands, you can feel the person, you can feel the atmosphere. So when you start to pay attention to this, you will notice that when there are no thoughts, you are merged. And when there are thoughts, you are separate. And this is a really, really important thing to start to notice. because what it means is that the only thing that creates separation is your thinking. That's it. And it's really, really simple. And most people are like, God, no, they can't be that simple. But just experiment with this. It is that simple. When you are not thinking, you are what the spiritual teachers would talk about enlightened. That's it. That's all it is. No thinking. So the moments of no thinking become very, very powerful doorways into seeing your enlightenment or your state of awareness, because the awareness that's still coming out of you at that time is still you, right? Like if you just, right at the moment, we're not kind of merging or anything like this, but if you think back to those times where you maybe had a really peaceful or really quiet or really blissful Reiki treatment, it might have just been yesterday when you were doing it. There were moments where you felt totally kind of connected in. And in those moments of full connection where you were Reiki, Reiki is you, and everything is merged, you were still the same awareness, right? You didn't suddenly switch awareness and become an alien or a unicorn or something, right? I mean, it was still the same you that was there when you were thinking. So it's you as awareness, and it's you as thinking thoughts.